Just when India and the United States appear to be inching towards a landmark trade deal, Washington has opened a fresh battlefront. Not over steel, not over technology, not over market access. This time, the trigger is forced labor. The United States wants to slap an additional 12.5% tariff on Indian exports under one of its toughest trade laws. Delhi is calling the move legally weak, factually flawed, and economically unjustified. Indian companies have joined the fight, exporters are warning of disrupted supply chains, and the timing has raised eyebrows because the proposal comes when both countries are negotiating what could become their biggest bilateral trade agreement yet. So is this really about forced labor, or is it another pressure tactic in America's tariff playbook? Here's the bigger picture. The dispute revolves around Section 301 of the US Trade Act of 1974. This is one of Washington's most powerful trade enforcement tools. It allows the US Trade Representative or USTR to investigate foreign governments if they are believed to be following policies that burden or restrict American commerce. If the USTR concludes that a country's practices are unfair, it can recommend retaliatory tariffs without waiting for a ruling from the World Trade Organization. This law has previously been used against China over intellectual property, Europe over digital taxes, and now it is being deployed against countries accused of failing to stop goods linked to forced labor from entering their markets. In March this year, the USTR launched investigations covering 60 economies, including India, China, Japan, the UK, Australia, and the European Union. Following its findings, it proposed additional duties of either 10% or 12.5%, depending on a country's legal framework against forced labor imports. India falls in the higher 12.5% category. India has not stayed silent. The Commerce Ministry has submitted a detailed legal response to the USTR. Delhi's argument is simple. Section 301 requires evidence that another country's actions directly burden or restrict US commerce. India says Washington has failed to produce that evidence. It argues there has been no country-specific assessment linking India's import policies to any measurable damage suffered by American businesses. According to India's submission, the investigation relies on broad assumptions instead of the concrete proof. New Delhi has urged the USTR to withdraw or substantially revise the proposal and has offered consultations instead of confrontation. India is also attacking the proposal using trade data. It says the USTR's own numbers contradict its conclusions. In tobacco, imports from India have remained tiny compared to global trade, while countries that have previously faced concerns over labor standards have not gained any unfair market advantage. In cotton and textiles, US imports from India have grown largely because American buyers shifted away from China during the supply chain diversification drive. India argues this reflects changing global sourcing patterns, not unfair competition. Delhi says there is simply no evidence showing that Indian exports linked to forced labor have displaced American producers or distorted US markets in the way Section 301 requires. The timing is impossible to ignore. The Trump administration's temporary global 10% tariff is due to expire on July 24th. Trade experts believe Washington could simply replace that expiring levy with this new Section 301 tariff regime. That means this proposal is not some distant policy discussion. It could become reality within weeks if approved after the consultation process. Public hearings have already begun, written submissions have been filed, and businesses across the world are lobbying for exemptions. Even several US states and trading partners have questioned whether the administration is stretching Section 301 beyond its legal limits. Several Indian sectors are watching this closely. Textiles and garments could face immediate pressure because global retailers can quickly shift sourcing between India, Vietnam, and Bangladesh. Engineering goods, one of India's largest export segments to the US, may lose competitiveness if American buyers face higher import costs. Auto components could become more expensive for US manufacturers that rely on Indian precision engineering. Agricultural exports, including spices, rice, and dehydrated vegetables, operate on narrow margins where even a small tariff increase can make a difference. Ironically, American importers and consumers would also end up paying more if these tariffs are imposed. There's a larger story here. India and the US have repeatedly described each other as strategic partners. They are working together in the Indo-Pacific, they cooperate through the Quad, defense ties are growing. Technology partnerships are expanding. At the same time, both governments have been negotiating a broader trade agreement designed to unlock billions of dollars in commerce. That is why this tariff proposal looks contradictory. It sends a mixed signal. On one hand, Washington says it wants deeper economic integration within India. On the other, it threatens new trade barriers just before the finish line. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has made India's position clear. New Delhi will sign a trade agreement only if Indian exporters receive a competitive tariff advantage over rivals such as China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and ASEAN economies. India is not negotiating for symbolism, it is negotiating for market access. Nothing is final yet. The hearings are still underway. The USTR will study public comments before taking a final decision. India is contesting the proposal on legal, economic, and factual grounds. Businesses on both sides are lobbying hard. But one thing is already clear. This is no longer just a debate over forced labor. It has become a test of trust between two countries trying to build one of the world's most important economic partnerships. The next few weeks will decide whether India and the US move towards a historic trade deal or whether another tariff battle once again gets in the way.
If they had a nuclear weapon,
the old rules are breaking. Alliances are shifting.
Apologize again to the victims of the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
Wars are redrawing maps. Oil routes can shake economies overnight. One election in America can impact markets in Mumbai.
no tax on tips.
One move by China can alter the balance in Asia. One conflict in West Asia can hit every Indian household. This is no longer a distant story. This is our story. Your story. Because for the first time in decades, India is not watching from the sidelines. India is rising. India is negotiating. India is balancing rivals. India is building military strength. India is shaping trade routes. India is becoming central to the new global order. And yet, most global news is still told through someone else's lens. Washington's lens, Beijing's lens, London's lens. But where is India's lens? Where is the platform that explains the world from our perspective? Welcome to India's Axis, a new destination for geopolitics, strategy and power seen through India's eyes. From Neighborhood Watch to the biggest global stories that matter to you. Why tensions in the Taiwan Strait matter to India. How one move by China can affect India's security. What turmoil in Pakistan means for regional stability. How Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bhutan shape India's neighborhood. Why oil choke points can hit your wallet. How wars abroad can reshape India's security. This is not noise. This is not shouting. This is not recycled headlines. This is sharp, intelligent storytelling. Daily explainers, war room analysis, strategic conversations. Because news is everywhere, but perspective is rare. And in the age of confusion, clarity is power. Axis is for the audience that wants more than headlines. The axis of global power is shifting. India is at the center of that shift. It's time the world was explained accordingly, to understand the world through India's strategic lens. Subscribe now.